Here's where I am currently on the Mughal polystyrene drawing project. I've only worked on the backside today, as that's the only side of the project that isn't either finished or nearly finished. I recall for the sides, I pretty much just have to use a light gray ultrafine Sharpie marker to add some detail and realism to those clouds. And these are the Sharpie markers that I'm using currently to draw and color in the wings on the backside of the Mughal polystyrene drawing project. I primarily worked on the Mughal polystyrene drawing project a little bit here and there during the evening and early night hours, after I naturally woke up around 6 p.m. after going to bed around 1:30 p.m. and fell asleep within 15 minutes of that. This being after my shift at Wegmans, which was from 8 in the morning to 1 p.m. And I spent about 5 minutes to get a large plastic bottle of low sodium V8 branded vegetable juice and a dozen organic brown eggs in a carton during a brief groceries shopping trip at the same Wegmans I work at. My mom picked me up after my shift, and I opted to go back to my dad's place, as I intended to bring the groceries I got bagged into a paper bag. At checkout, I recall it came to $11.38. I brought those groceries over to my dad's place when my mom drove me there, and rendered Camtasia 2019 My Dinner video project files upload to my YouTube channel faster at my dad's place than at my mom's place. I'm hoping to have some eggs at my dad's place tomorrow. In the hours after I woke up naturally for today, I recall having around 7:30 p.m. a little plastic cup of the remaining plain coffee from the pot my dad made during the early morning hours. I recall sipping at that little blue plastic cup of plain coffee until about 8 p.m. And then around 8:45 p.m., I had some leftover Spanish rice that my dad's mom made and then gave to my dad, with some leftover Italian sausage my dad cooked and then cut up. I had that with some tap water using the same glass I'm using currently. I finished editing the July 14 my dinner video in Camtasia 2019, though by that point all I needed to do was to type out the footnote annotations and then review them both right before I started rendering the video project into a 1080p quality MP4 file, and right before I uploaded that rendered video project file to my YouTube channel to ensure all the footnote annotations were correctly spelt and had proper grammar and punctuation. I had done most of the editing of that video project file within the first 6 hours of today, after first trying to go to bed and fall asleep around 3:30 in the morning and trying until about 4:15 in the morning, before essentially deciding that I wouldn't be able to fall asleep in time to get a substantial amount of sleep. That was my thinking at the time, even though getting a 2-hour nap can be pretty substantial when trying to change your sleep schedule. Around 6 in the morning, I had with my first cup of coffee today 3 mild cheddar cheese sticks from a pack of them, Wegmans generic branded, and I had a total of 2 cups of plain coffee from the pot my dad made before we left around 6:50 in the morning, so my dad could take me to the Wegmans I work at. He drove me there, and I got to the Wegmans I work at about 45 minutes before the start of my shift. I walked to the break room and participated in a Employee Appreciation Week event that was being held there. Today was Omelet Day. There was a setup table where two chef employees of the Wegmans I work at, both of the male, were preparing omelets on portable little round propane fueled stoves or cookers. There were some variety of ingredients, such as diced green peppers, diced onions, sliced white mushrooms, and 3 different kinds of meat: sausage chunks, bacon bits, and something I would describe best as spam, but I don't know for sure if it truly was spam. It looked and tasted pretty similar to it, though. I don't recall ever having spam, but it looked and tasted like what I would imagine spam to taste like, and it looked like what I've seen spam to look like before. I had 2 omelets from that Employee Appreciation Week event. The first one around 7:15 in the morning before my shift, and the second one around 11:45 in the morning which was the time I took my 1 15-minute break today. As an older male coworker, I'm pretty sure is a supervisor, at least, requested that I do so. As he doesn't like it when an employee takes a break towards the end of their shift. both times I had an omelet from that event today, I opted for what I described as an all meat and cheese omelet with all three kinds of meat and cheese, such as some sprinkled cheddar cheese and some cheddar cheese sauce. Those omelets were seasoned with salt and pepper, and I added some sriracha on top of them. Though at least for me, that didn't add much of a kick. I think I did that more to add some flavor to them. I ate those omelets with black plastic forks provided by the utensil dispenser in the break room. And I ate those omelets each time on a biodegradable paper plate. But I took the picture outside of the break room, but nearby, as the break room is an employees only area. I enjoyed having those omelets, and I appreciated interacting with people I'm familiar with. In this case, one of the chefs for the Omelet Day event. An older male with short grayish hair and a short full gray beard. And a male co-worker at the Wegmans I work at. A younger male who seems to always wear a baseball cap forwards. The younger male co-worker said that I was so dedicated and the older male co-worker said I was an inspiration. And praised me for getting a double major college degree, which made me feel pretty good. And what I've done in the past. That occurred when I had my first omelet, the one before my shift. I recall from roughly 30 minutes into my shift until around the last hour and a half, I felt moderately tired and nodded off somewhat. But I was still able to restock merchandise within the produce department perfectly fine. And then for around the last hour and a half, I felt perfectly fine, as I was no longer tired at that point. And even when I went to bed today, at that time I didn't feel tired, but I was still able to fall asleep within 15 minutes. As I had gone a long time without sleeping by that point. Throughout my shift, I primarily restocked the front sections of the produce department, especially during roughly the last hour and a half of it, as that was around the time the older male coworker that I'm pretty sure is a supervisor of the Wegmans I work at came there. And around that time, generally he either loaded a cart with merchandise for the front sections of the produce department, or gave me a verbal list of products to load onto either my designated cart for today or a cart, getting those products from the section of the employees only warehouse for those who work in the produce department. Though at a couple points I went into a general corridor area of the warehouse in order to look for and get a hand jack in order to transport one of the large octagonal cardboard containers that are used for storing and transporting either regular watermelons or mini seedless watermelons. And I restocked primarily regular watermelons, and in those cases I primarily restocked regular watermelons at the two flat open displays for them at one of the front entrances of the supermarket that's between the transitional area of the supermarket and the main part of the supermarket. But I also recall at one point restocking some mini seedless watermelons during that around the last hour and a half period of my shift. And that was for one of the front displays of the produce department. I recall also restocking some bulk honeydew melons, some varieties of bagged apples, at one point I spent about 30 minutes or so restocking varieties of bagged carrot products at the carrots and celery section of the produce department. I recall at least one point briefly restocking merchandise for the hard items section of the produce department, and I also recall restocking the banana section of the produce department twice during my shift, taking me roughly 15 minutes each time. I filled a tall paper cup with cold cooler water and sipped at it throughout my shift. There were a couple points during the early night hours in which I contemplated putting the photos and raw video files of some My Dinner video projects from my phone into a thumb drive, but each time I ultimately decided against it. You can pause the video if you want to read these.